Oh, can't resist. This is why I can't afford more than one bike. But can't be helped. Had to be done. Well, it happened again. Damn you, weight weenies. So I've been saving up for the 12-speed XTR Di2 for quite a while, but it looks like that's vaporware or Shimano has some other kind of grand plan for that. So when I came across these wheels, again weight weenies, that site's gonna cost me a fortune. They really piqued my interest. A disc wheel set, tubeless compatible, and a weight that actually rivals proper rim brake climber wheel sets. For me, as I'm still riding a lot of road, and basically the only time or only few times I really try to go fast is when I am climbing. So I have been keeping an eye out for new disc wheel sets aimed more at the climber. There are not much out there, to be honest, and it's really hard to find anything really under 1300 grams or around that area. I'm sure you can find custom built tubular ones if you look hard enough, but I'm after those tubeless compatible ones. So I was really surprised when I saw this advertised at 1080 grams for the set. So that kind of threw the whole XTR Di2 idea out the window and just went for these puppies. And the real weight is actually even a bit better than that, as you can see here. I should point out that these are proper weight weenie boutique wheels. It's not something like a TT Swiss 350 durable like set and forget kind of wheel set. If you just look at the hubs on these wheels, these are the Cyber front and Cyber rear hubs, SPD2, which is straight pull spokes, some of the lightest hubs you can find on the market. The rear is a meager 146 grams and the front is even more crazy 66 grams. And we're talking about disc brake hubs here. So it's pretty crazy. I am expecting that these will require a lot more attention and maintenance than say my DT 240 hubs, which I can just service once or twice a year with some new grease and then basically set and forget. So these come with a specific free hub grease that won't damage the seal for the free hub body and stuff like that. I actually ordered some extra as I didn't know if it was included or not. They also come with 6 spare spokes, which tells you that these might not be your average bomb-proof wheels. Also, a free t-shirt. That's a win in my book. The model name of this wheel is Cyberdisc 38. And as that name suggests, these are 38mm deep, but even though they are a mid-depth rim, they are optimized for lightweight and not aerodynamics. As you can see from the offset rim profile, I'm guessing these won't perform excellent in a wind tunnel. It's not really something I care about though. The hookless design also helps shave the weight down to that crazy 1080 grams for the set. The internal width is advertised at 20mm. According to my calipers, they came in around 19.5mm. So pretty much in line with modern road rims today. These wheels also meant I needed some other new parts. As I'm sure most of you already noticed, these hubs only take 6-bolt brake rotors instead of central locks, which I'm usually used to. If you follow me on Instagram, a few weeks back I put up a story asking about 6-bolt disc rotor recommendations, and I got quite a few tips. The most common tip was by far the Shimano rotors, but since I like to try something different from time to time, I decided to go with another highly recommended set of rotors from Hope. And these are the Hope floating rotors. Sizes are the same as my other wheels, 160mm in the front and 140 in the back. These came in at a pretty good weight as well, and they look pretty sturdy, so hopefully they will do the job just as good as my Shimano rotors do. I also decided to go for the SRAM XT Drive free hub, again to try something different, as well as save a few grams on the cassette. Because, you know, why not? I went with the SRAM 1175 10-22 in the end, and if my calculations are correct, that should save up around 90 grams compared to my modified XT cassette. To be totally honest, I'm a bit worried about the gaps between 10 and 12 mostly, but I probably won't use them on climbs anyway, so I'm sure I get used to it though in the end. So while I had to pony up for these wheels myself, the Rotors and cassette is actually sponsored by all you guys who has been using my Amazon links that I put in descriptions for parts and stuff like that. I get a small commission if you use some of my links there. So in 1.5 years, I collected enough Amazon credit so I could get this cassette and these rotors shipped over for free. So thank you everyone who has been using my links. Much appreciated. So the last piece of this wheel set is of course the tires. And here I went with the safe bet from experience, the Gravelking Slick 32C that's also tubeless compatible now. I've been pretty happy with my Pro 128s on my old road wheels. They come in at just over 300 grams per tire. These Gravelkings are actually a few grams lighter as you can see, but more volume at 32mm, which means lower pressures. And since I'm not concerned about the aero aspect at all, it was a pretty easy decision for me. It also means I won't need to hesitate to take these over some light gravel as well if I have to. So getting these wheels set up was pretty uneventful really. Everything went really smooth. I used 2 layers of the cheap 3M, I think it's 8898 tape as my tubeless tape. Also, I managed to mount the tires without any tools, although I had to work a bit more than I am used to. They still went on. Just made sure I had the bead down in the channel before popping out that last part of the tire. Once the tires were on, I could seat both wheels with just my regular floor pump, no problem. I've done a few videos on tubeless setup, so I will link to those if you want a more thorough tutorial here. I finally got my hands on some orange seal and injected that with the help of an old Stance bottle just to avoid too much of a mess. I didn't get the injector with the orange seal, so this worked out fine. That little bottle is perfect for inserting sealant through the valve. Then I pumped up the tires again and it was smooth sailing all the way on both wheels, so that was a very pleasant setup process. The brake rotors are 6-bolt as I mentioned before, and I tightened these bolts down to 5 Nm as printed on the rotors. The bolt came prepped with Loctite from the factory, so that made the whole process pretty simple. Then on with the cassette. It always feels strange to me to install an XT driver cassette with that built-in lock bolt thingamajig, whatever you call it, but that went on without any issues as well. Now I just need to install this on a bike. I'm expecting I might have to do some adjustments for the brake calipers, etc. But I'll cover that once I'm out on the road.
So it seems like I'm always end up on this same spot every time I'm recording these kind of videos, but as soon as it gets a bit warmer, I hope to get a bit further out. Hope you can live with the repetition. So just to continue on from the bike room, I put this wheel on the bike and I had to do some adjustments as I suspected. The rotors are actually thicker than the Shimano rotors, so I needed to reset the pistons, and after I did that I also had to adjust the calipers to avoid any kind of rubbing and stuff like that. That is actually the reason why you should try to use the same kind of hubs on all your wheels, because then you don't need to adjust anything when switching wheels. They were a big reason why I decided to go with this anyway. So I'm totally fine with making that sacrifice. I went out on a ride this morning with my mate Mark and hit some climbs, and what can I say, they are about a half a kilo lighter than my other road wheels. So they climbed pretty damn nice. Nothing to complain about there. Really snappy, acceleration is pretty nuts, but it was not all smooth sailing. First off, I realized there was a tiny bit of play in the rear hub. They're supposed to come preloaded perfectly out from the factory, but obviously that wasn't the case here. After about 4 or 5k or something like that, I got some weird ticking from the front wheel. I couldn't feel any play from the preload on the front hub. I took out the through axle and lubed it up just out on the road and tried to see if that fixed it, but nothing. I started wondering if it actually was the rotors. Since they're floating rotors, there might be some ticking going on. I don't know, it's the first time I had rotors. That wasn't the case either. So I went home, had lunch, and started messing around with the bike. Fixing the rear play wasn't that big of a deal. You just need a, I think it's a 21mm spanner to adjust the preload. So got that sorted pretty quick. The front though, I didn't really know what to do. I started with just removing the rotor and went out on a short ride just with no rotor and see if it was that, and it still make those ticking noises every time I like stood up and put pressure on one side. So back to the drawing board, and I started to mess around with the preload for the front as well. After I started doing that, the ticking improved, so I continued on messing around with that preload for the front, and eventually I actually got rid of that ticking. But it is quite fiddly though, because you don't want to preload it too hard, so you get a lot of bearing drag, and you don't want them too loose, because then it's going to start developing a play in the actual axle interface thingamajig. So you need to like hit that sweet spot where you can spin the wheel and it will slowly slow down and come to a really smooth stop, and not like a zoop. So eventually I got that dialed in, and that ticking went away as well. So for now everything is a-okay, but kind of disappointing first impressions, so to speak. I think I will send off a mail to Extralite just to make sure nothing's weird or something needs to be fixed or anything, and I will send them a few questions. So the wheels come with instructions for adjusting the preload and everything. It's not really brain science, but they're definitely a lot more fiddly than like a DT Swiss 240 hub, for example, that I have a lot of experience with, and you don't really experience these kinds of issues. Yeah. If you're not into fiddling around with your bike that much, just want to set and forget, these wheels are not for you, most likely. I'm not a reviewer, I just make videos about shit I put on my bike. If you've seen my recent videos, you know that I'm kind of a bit sick in the head when it comes to weight. So there's basically only one reason you will get these wheels, and that is the weight. So if you don't care about weight, these wheels probably not for you. The Hope rotors are freaking awesome, I gotta say. After some bedding in this morning, they started to bite really nice, and they bite at least at the same level as my Dura-Ace discs, so super happy with the rotors. The SRAM cassette is pretty noisy, I gotta say. I thought it was because I needed to adjust the gears. I started adjusting it out on the road, and in the end I ended up at the same setting that I had on my other cassette, so I didn't really need to adjust the gear, but I do think the cassette is a bit noisier than the Shimano cassette. I am using a Shimano chain, so that could be one reason for that noise. If you are using SRAM cassettes, or specifically the 1x1142 cassettes and a Shimano chain. Let me know if you experience any extra noise because of that. If that's the case, might have to try another chain eventually. Nothing I can't live with though. And speaking of that cassette, that 10 to 42, I was a bit worried about the gap from 10 to 12, but I'm not really in the 10 that much. And the 12 was the one I missed a lot from my Shimano cassette. So as long as I had a 12 tooth, I didn't really think I was missing that much. But only first ride, so no, only second ride. So I shouldn't say more than that. I will probably give an update on these wheels in the future when I put a lot more distance on them. But for now, despite all the problems in the beginning, do I recommend these wheels to everyone? No, definitely not. Do I regret getting them myself? No, I don't regret it one single bit. Like I said in my other video, you always need a scale out in the mountains. That's the first impressions. Like I said, I'm not a review channel, so take that in account for whatever you want to use this video for. Sun is setting, need to head home. If you found this interesting or helpful or something like that, feel free to leave a like. It's always appreciated, and subscribe if you like these kinds of videos. Hopefully I'll get some more riding videos out soon once the weather gets a bit warmer. And if you do, I will catch you in the next one. Peace!
As the name of these wheels are Cyberdisc